going to address, because I've gotten this question so many times in the last week, and it's super valid. There's a lot of you that are like, Kathy, we have done some or all of this. We're just not sure, is this a good use of our time? And I'm like, I'm going to be totally honest with you, and I'm going to tell you, I would really like you to wait until basically this meeting and the next meeting, because they're the two big where we figure out what it is you're actually doing before you make that decision. If you don't need to come to everything, that's not the end of the world, but I want you to wait and see. And I'm also going to address what you should be doing, because I don't want you to be bored. I also don't want to waste your time. What you can be doing while you're here, because your time is still going to be well used. Okay, so first thing is just remind everybody, going to the chat, make sure you get your chat visible, and of course, if you'd like to turn your camera on, I'd love to see you, just so we can enjoy the fun together. I love when I have the faces. Those are the ones I focus on. So like Erin, your smiling face, I always love that. We're getting people in. It's the same document as before. And I probably mentioned this last time, but if I did it, save that document or send yourself an email with it, or put it in your phone as a note or something, because that document has the Drive link. So it gives you have a home base. Also, we are in the process, hopefully, actually, let's test this out. Electronically, raise your hand if you got the email reminder that came out in the last hour about today's meeting. This is a great time to check that out, because my team's been working on that, getting the email list built and trying to get those out. And if you're like, I did not get one, there's one of two reasons. One is it might have gone into your spam or junk, because the college filters anymore are crazy strong, much stronger than they used to be, because there's so much more spam than there used to be. So I would check junk and spam folders. If that's still the case, then I would say I would go and look in a little bit, or you can just do it right now while we're doing housekeeping stuff. Go and look in your folder and see, has your school completed a contact information sheet, and is your name on it or not? If your name is not on it, here's the beautiful thing. I put this document in here. If you ever need our help, so you can put your hands down. So we got quite a few, which is good, but not everybody, and that's going to be normal. There's a document in here if you need help. So if you did not get that email reminding you, because the idea is we are adding you to calendar invites, and we're also adding you to email reminders to make your life, thank you, kid, to make your life a little bit easier. If you're like, I check spam, there's none of it, we have a contact sheet, I don't know what's up, then just email Leah. Here's the email address, and let her know I'm from this school, this is my name, whatever. I need to be in the Michigan email list, so I get reminders, and she will take care of it. Okay, and then there's that kickoff document down here at the bottom. Okay, so in that document, again, a couple of different things. If you want reminders from Michigan, your Community College Association of Michigan, make sure you have signed up for this. You probably did this at the initial kickoff meeting. It says constant contact pages. It's really super quick, but it gets you on their reminder email list, which is nice. And then if you ever forget, here's all of our information. I never want you to wonder about it. We our Google Drive, if you haven't opened that yet, go into it, because that's where our home base is, and that's where we will be. Whenever I say add something to your drive, because I got this question yesterday, which was really good because that wasn't specific. What I mean is your folder on the drive that we're using for this project. Now, if you're like, Kathy, we already have a whole folder, you can put a link to your folder in my folder so that you can have access to it. So can we. It's just nice when I'm working with the school, if we can go, if I have access to be able to see these things that you've been working on, it makes it easier. But all the forms are here, the dates and everything. We will review this at the end. Just a reminder, we had an office hour yesterday. Actually, Katie, did you have a question? Or you just had or are you just testing the hand? Oh, you're muted.
No, my hand just didn't come down.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we had an office hour yesterday, and we will have another one next week. I'll remind you of this at the end of the time. Office hours, again, optional. You will probably get reminders because I think my team is sending out reminders for everything just in case. Zoom link stays the same all the time. Office hours, and after today, you may want to come next time. So we will talk about it. Of course, you don't have to, but we'll see how far you get today. You may be like, we need a little bit more help with something. Maybe we can figure out our own. Maybe we'd like a little bit of guidance or some tips. So for those of you that are faculty, it's just like for your students. Just think like, you expect them to pop in if they need something, they can pop out. They don't have to stay the whole time. It's whatever you need. All right. So we did that. Let's do attendance. God, does this not feel like a class, y'all? It just feels like a class to me. If you can't tell, then my roots are teaching. That's what they are. All right. So really quickly go in, click the link in the Google form that's in the chat. You're going to fill out the attendance. We do this every time. I do this to your benefit. That way, if someone comes back and says, was this person really at the meeting? I can say yes or no, but I will know because we will have a record of it. So go ahead and fill that out. We will do that every single time. Okay. And since we just had someone join, I'll put that in again. All right. I wish Zoom let you saw things before people come. I wish they kept the chat from the time that the meeting starts, but for participants, but they do not allow you to do that. Okay, so we already talked about that. All right, so I've gone through some of your folders, not everybody, and I get you guys are all at different phases. So some of you are like all in, we are working on this. Some of you are kind of like, we're still evaluating what we're going to do. And some people are like, no, we don't need it right now. We're going to hop in a couple of months when you're more at implementation. If you are still planning on participating in any way or you want reminders, please, and I'm just going to randomly pick someone. Let's see, randomly Oakland. I shall pick Oakland. So, if you have not filled out your contact sheet, fill that out. If you have not done a profile, please complete it. This kind of information, I have you collect this because it makes things easier. You do not have to go and dig. It's like we do a little, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of assignments this week. Your assignment actually is like one. That's it. So you do this initial work, then it makes it easier going forward. We're just getting all of our supplies together, basically. That's what we're doing. Okay. Do you have any questions before we dive in? You can just unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat.
Hey, Kathy, I don't have a question, but can you add another G at the end of Kellogg?
Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't type it if that makes you feel better.
Sorry, I'm nitpicky.
And you guys are the actual, I'm assuming this is the same Kellogg as the cereal.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Rename Kellogg.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
I don't like people call my old college Rock Valley Community College all the time. And just like, it's Rock Valley College, just the little things like that. JB, you said you do not have access to edit Muskegon. You should. So let's go fix that. Anyone? Aha. Oh my God. Is it anybody else is in the boat? I do not know whether that's the case, but they're supposed to all be that you guys can edit. So if there's anybody else that does not have editing rights for their drive, put it in the chat. I will fix it. Because we're going to do 3 breakouts today. So I'll have time to fix it if I can't immediately fix it. All right. Any other questions? Any questions? We don't have access to Bay College. Let's fix that. Share anyway with the link and edit. All right. Benjamin. Okay, Montcalm. Let's do this. What am I wanting? Yes, share. I'll get my brain straight. Okay, editor. Anybody else? Okay, cool. If you think of it, put it in there. Henry Ford. You guys have so much industry in Michigan. That's so amazing. We did in Illinois. We still have some, but I don't think we have as much anymore. Oh, okay. It is not community. We will get rid of that. Henry Ford College. I'm actually going to make it so you can edit it, so you can go take that out if you like. Editor. Okay. All right, anyone else? Good. Let's do it. And if I missed you, just post it again and I'll come back. Okay, so let's talk about the whole, I cannot edit Kellogg's. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask again. I want you guys to have access. Oh, that's why. Gosh, I'm wondering why some were and some weren't. I think it's because Leah's my assistant. She added some of these at different times. And I wonder if she did not check all those permissions when she added them. But yeah, we gotta get that straightened out. Okay, so let's talk about, we are newly forging into this. So let's do this. Go into the chat and tell me, are you like, you've got quite a bit to do ahead of you. So let's say you've got, let's say, put a college in name right now if you're in the place where you're pretty much the beginning of your redesign. I'm not saying if you've redesigned ever, I'm saying the redesign for the requirements of Reconnect. Who is at the beginning? Okay, so we've got SMC, Southwestern Michigan, Oakland, Lake Michigan. Who else? Is that it? Okay, who has done some, but still has more to go? That's you, put it in the chat. I'm sure we could do a poll and be really fancy, but you can see how I did this. Okay, Wayne County, Schoolcraft. Who else has done some, but has more to go? Kellogg. Okay. And who is like, we've done what we were asked to do, and we're still trying to figure out why we have to attend. Okay, so who's in that boat? We've done a lot. Go ahead and put Montcalm. Yes, because I was talking to Muskegon, definitely. I remember you guys telling me things you've done. I was talking to some people this morning on email. Maybe Henry Ford. Bay has done a lot. Kalamazoo Valley, West Shore. This is awesome. This is really, really, really good. Okay. Ooh, West Shore, we do not have a folder for you. So Darby, are you still thinking about if you're going to join, or do you want us to go ahead and make you a folder?
You can go ahead and make us a folder. We already have all of our co-requisite classes, but I still want to participate to hear what other institutions are doing. So
excellent. Okay, so do you have anybody else from your school here today?
no, but I am filling out your contact sheet right now. I will at the next meeting.
Awesome.
I'll
Okay.
have the Dean of Student Services and a math faculty with me next time.
All right, so I've given you room 16 when we go to breakouts. Since you're the only person there, if you just want to hang out in the main room with me, that's fine too.
Sounds
You
good.
already have West Shore at 13 as well.
Oh, I did? Oh my gosh. Rush Short. Thank you. Who's that? Mike. Thank you.
No problem.
That would explain why it filled in automatically, because you were already there. All right, 13, lucky number 13. Okay, so let's talk about where are you at with things and what you should be your perspective as we're going into this. Obviously, for the people that are newer to this process, you're going to be learning as we go. But I'm treating this in some ways just like I treat when I teach any kind of developmental class. You're not developmental students. However, you're not all at the same place, and some of you need more than others. So what I'm thinking about is, or what I want you to be thinking about. So if you're doing something else, come back to me. This is what I want you to be thinking about if you're further along in the process. I want you to go through the activities with us, and instead of deciding what you're going to be doing, I want you evaluating what you've done against what I'm teaching you. And here's why. I am not the be-all end-all expert on developmental math. I'm not saying that. But this is what I do for a living, and I've done it for now it'll be 16 years, and I have worked with dozens of colleges. Therefore, I have seen a lot of common mistakes. And so what I want you to do is I want to prevent some of those for you, because this is what happens, okay? And I say this with all the kindness in the world because I have done the same thing. You get to a point, because our state would come to us and be like, you need to do all this stuff. And we're like, we've already done a ton of stuff. Leave us alone. We've done stuff. We got other things to do. Okay. And then what happens is when you go to get measured against a particular measuring stick, you're like, oh, crud, we have done a lot, but we're still not meeting where it is that we're trying to get to. So, and that may or may not be the case for you. But what I find is usually we think we've done more than we have. Now, some of you are like, no, Kathy, we really have done it all. And I believe you. Okay. So like Muskegon, it sounds like you guys have done a ton of stuff. Montcalm, sounds like you guys have like done all of it already that you've been asked to do. So in those cases, again, I just want you to look at this through my lens, because what I'm trying to do is get you a good redesign that does not require tons of tweaks once you get it going. Because again, you're doing this for some of you for the second time, some of you for the first, second, or third time, but I've done this like the 50th time. So there's things that I can see that I'm like, oh, I already know that that's going to be a problem, but you won't see it as a problem until you implement it. So that's why I just want you to entertain the idea of this meeting and the next one on placement to see, does your stuff, is there anything that you might be able to tweak to it to make it work better and avoid issues when you go to implementation? Okay, I certainly do not want you making go to meetings you don't need to go to. Never the plan, never the idea or the plan. I'll get it said. All right, homework. I think we talked about this, but if you have not done this yet, and you are at the end where you're pretty much, or at the end of the continuum where you're like, we're pretty much at the beginning or we're towards the middle, it's very, very helpful to have completed the homework that we did last time, which was to come up with a bunch of, I gave you a list of onboarding documents. And if you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So if you go to this drive again and come up to intensive meeting documents, we have documents that are called schedules. Every meeting or every work session will have a schedule. So this was the one that you guys used last time. It's from meeting 1, and it has the homework on it. So the things that you're supposed to do, so like complete your profile, talk to your people, you know, so people know. Oh, I got this question yesterday from someone. They're like, are we supposed to be communicating this to students yet? Not necessarily. I'm just saying, whoever are your colleagues, colleges are hard to maintain communication across. I mean, there will be people in the math department or in advising that have no idea there's even a law. So it's just, you know, the people that you work with or your colleagues, just give them a heads up. There is a law. They're making us do this. We're going to these meetings and this is what we're doing. Okay. This was the list of onboarding documents to add to the drive folder that we made for you. If you haven't done that yet, then that's your assignment before I see you next time, which I think is in 2 weeks, which is good because you may need more time to work on what we do today. You may not, you may get it done today. But it's just things like getting a flow chart, you know, what courses do we have? What syllabi? This is going to make things so much easier as we go through and need to evaluate different things. And because you're all really in the evaluation phase at some point, because I don't think there's any college that's never done anything through developmental. It's just how far have you gone with it and how recently, really, that's the difference. Okay, so we did that. Perfect. Make sure you're in this folder as well. So this is called, again, intensive meeting documents. Go find the one that says schedule 2 and please copy 1. So whoever your person is that does, you know, the documents for your team, copy 1 of these, change the name to put your college name in it and go put it in your Google Drive folder. So I'll give you a minute to do that because that's going to be our working document that's going to guide us today. So schedule 2, copy 1 for a college, put your college name in it, go put it in your Drive folder. Can we get access Lake Michigan College? You sure can. Oh, I'm really bugged that so many of these have this. Okay. West Shore, I guess we do not have one yet. I'm going to make you a folder, Darby. So I'll be doing that once you guys go into the first breakout. If anybody's having issues with this document, please let me know. I'm curious, are any of you meeting physically in the same space? Anybody's school doing that? Or did you guys just decide to stay virtual in Zooms? Appears as though we are virtual. I'm at home. Cool. All right. I don't blame you. Yeah, Mark, this would not be my #1 time choice. However, it really works well for schedules because a lot of us, I'm curious on your campuses, do you guys have a 4-day week basically for most of your classes? It seems like we all went to that at some point, not everybody, but a lot did. So, you know, Fridays just give us a little bit more availability. Okay. Okay, so knowing that, now I realize I was asking you that. If you have multiple people here that are from your team, well, I was going to say share the link, but you don't have to. So like Kalamazoo Valley, schedule #2, just go to your folder and then anybody can see it. So you don't have to worry about sharing the link. Oh, wow, that's awesome. You guys have done a ton of stuff. Cool. All right, so I think we are ready for breakout 1. Awesome. Okay, so this is my version of your schedule. So go ahead and bring your schedule up so that we're all looking at it together. And you can see the outline, and this has a lot more in it than the one we did last time. Now, don't skip ahead because you spoil the surprises. Stay with us, okay? So we enjoy the fun together. All right, what we are going to do, the first thing is you are going to set your goal. So the pieces you're going to do are, I believe, all on page 2. Is that correct? Yeah, you're going to do all of page 2 in this breakout. So what that means is, okay, I know we're all academics, but you're not getting a grade for this, okay? Make this your own. It does not have to be perfect. You can edit at will, all right? So first thing I want you to do is, I told you my goal for you guys last time. We are trying to create a program, math at scale, that is successful for anybody who interacts with it, meaning faculty, staff, administrators, and students. Works for everybody. That's my goal for you. You guys will have your own goals. So like a college yesterday told me their goal was to increase the percentage of students who complete a college level math credit in 2 semesters. That's their North Star. That's what they're going to measure everything against, and that's what they want. I want you guys to come up as a team with your North Star statement. It does not have to be a quantitative goal. It's nice if it is. I mean, it could be something like, we want to have improved communication over how we do things now. We want to have improved systems and collaboration over how we do things, whatever. If you're really far along, it could be, we want to have a dashboard. We want to be able to evaluate data and have a process of reviewing data much more simply than we do now. We want to have routines that make it easy for us to do this stuff and it not be so much work, okay? So whatever it is, I want you to pick something, write it down, agree to it as a group. And the idea is, this is what we come back to when we say, why are we doing this again? Not just because the state told us, but like, why are we doing this? And what is it going to accomplish for us? Like, why do we even care that we're doing this? Okay. Then once you write it, and again, you can have more than one goal, just write at least one, but have as many as you like. I wouldn't have tons, but you can have more than one, definitely. Okay, then, and I think I've got this changed. Nope, I don't. Okay, so I will show you something that I learned yesterday. Again, I use Google stuff every single day, still learn new things. If you select all of this and you go up to where you see checklist, there's an arrow. Pick the right type of checklist instead of the left type. What that does is it doesn't cross things out. It doesn't cross them out. Instead of marking them off, it just checks them off. So you're like, I like that. They're not marking through it. And I apologize because that should not be that way. So I'll make a note. Schedule check off box. Okay. So what you're going to do is, I've given you some ideas. You don't have to use any of them, or you can use very, very specific versions of them, or whatever. It's up to you. What do you want to measure? Pick at least one thing, or write in one thing. Delete all these and put in something else if you want. And then figure out how you're going to look at things in a disaggregated way. So I will tell you that colleges throughout the US have been looking at data forever. You already know that. Disaggregated data? No. That is harder to come by. Most colleges are not comfortable with producing lots of that quickly. They can produce it for compliance, but usually not very quickly. So it's not like just, automatic. Also, another thing that colleges really struggle with all these new changes is studying students for more than one semester. We are used to looking at individual pass rates. You're not going to be looking at just individual pass rates. We want to see like how are students doing. If you do, I don't think you guys can have a standalone developmental course, but if you did, how do they do in the college level course? How long does it take them to get through the college level course? Or in your case, is there a subsequent course? How long does it take them to get through it and be successful? But the data lift is heavier. We'll talk more about that as we get into the accelerator, which is like April and on for the rest of this year. We'll work on the data piece. Anyway, you don't have to be perfect in this, and you can change them whenever you want. I got the question yesterday, why are we asking about Pell eligibility? All we're asking for is, do you want to break things down in terms of who gets financial aid or not? Again, that's up to you. And if you want to add any other, the big ones that I always recommend are gender, age, ethnicity, and then after that, it's whatever you guys want, but it's nice we can disaggregate at least that level. Okay. So goals, metric, disaggregations, it is 227 in Michigan. So let's go to 240. Okay, so let's go to 242. Okay, 242, that way you have 15 minutes and I'll remind you. So I'm going to open up breakouts. Okay, so I'm curious if you're coming on back in. Looks like we have people. If you'd like to put your in the chat, what's your goal going to be? Each college, let's, what are you thinking of? And again, this can change. Like today, what are you going to aim for? This isn't going to the board. It can change. Okay. Oh my God, that's fantastic. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. By the way, if anybody ever wondered what it feels like to be transported on Star Trek, you just experienced it. Mid-sentence sometimes.
That is fantastic. Oh, and I need to meet for a second to everyone. Bay College, we need to improve. Okay. You guys are going to love next time. We are going to dive deep into placement, particularly guided self-placement. So we'll talk more about that before we leave. But I would say, anybody could come to that just to hear what other people are doing, if nothing else. I think next one will be really, really beneficial. Okay, JB, increase by the end of their first year. Oh, you guys have got data already. That's awesome. Okay, so you already know it's at 25.3% and you want to get it to 35. That's awesome. Aaron, let's see. Okay, Erin, where is Erin? There she is. Okay, Erin, can you unmute?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so you said our goal is to have a plan for guided self or placement. Should it come down on high that we have to? I keep trying to get an answer to this question. Do you guys have to do guided self placement, or are you encouraged at this point?
Not yet, but we're pretty sure that at some point the legislature is going to come down and stomp on us and say, you must. And I have not been at KVCC that long. So I've only been here about 9 months, but I've heard about how tough it was when the COREC stuff came down. They had to put it in place very quickly. There wasn't a lot of time. And I wanted my people, if it does come down from on high that we have to do this, I want them to have time to put together a well thought out and well-crafted plan, so that should this come down, we're not, putting together something that's crap because we had to do it in 5 minutes. And that does not mean that the other stuff we put together was crap.
No, I know. And
and then the other thing is the 087-088 pair. That's our loan developmental course.
Okay. So yeah, like right now, I don't think you guys, going forward, I think that's already been approved with a law that you can't do standalone developmental. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. We've got options. I'll show you guys. I'm going to show you flow charts in just a second. We're going to get right into best practices and give you guys some ideas. And again, develop what you want or evaluate what you have and see what works. Definitely, this is going to be good. And I'm looking forward to next meeting because I never BS people on this. I have yet to do a redesign with guided self-placement. That is a more new thing, and a lot of schools have not adopted it yet. So I'm going to do my research before we come, but I'm definitely going to ask to hear from you guys that are in the trenches. Be honest with us, which I know you will be, what's actually working and what's not. Because once that happens, then we can problem solve. We can try different things. But yeah, then knowing that if anybody is, I'm getting off topic, I shouldn't do this, but I guess the main thing is don't try to design anything when we do next week, ultra complicated placement in case you have to dismantle it. We need to have basically be prepared for what could come up. Okay. And what I was going to say is knowing the fact that just watching how quickly your legislation has happened, I would not be surprised at all if it does. That is definitely the trend around the country, especially after California. They had their first law in 2017, and not everybody delivered it or implemented it to fidelity, and they immediately got more laws. And believe me, these states all look at each other. And a lot of them look at California because they're extremely well studied and published. So this is what legislatures hear a lot about. All right, I like that, Chris. That's awesome. It is a law for students to accept you can have standalones. Students just can't pay for it. Right, exactly. Okay. I will be honest with you. I know this doesn't necessarily go with what legislators say, but I'm a math faculty member, so like I know what students need, and having the ability to have it like one developmental class is nice. Because we all know there are students who come to us at 4th grade level and can't do 2 times 3. So, you know, like, what are we supposed to do with them? We can't just make miracles happen. Okay. All right. Awesome. So one thing I would do, especially if you don't have an administrator here today, I would make sure you're sharing your goal back with them, and, you know, and find out, because like, where was it? Darby and I were having a good conversation. Like, she's already got certain numbers that have been sent to her from on high at her school that she has to meet. You might have, there might be things in your college's strategic plan that you're not aware of, or things that where your board administration is going to. Definitely, if you do not have an administrator here today, get in contact with them and be like, is this going to be in line? Because we don't want to do this again. Like, what is it that they're wanting us to do, so we know and we're addressing it, because nobody's got the time. Nope. Okay, Shelly, how do you say your last name?
It's Delu.
Oh, okay, just like it looks. Okay, I was like imagining something very, very adventuresome. Okay, Duluth, I like that. All right, now let's do it. Let's get into best practices. Now, as you look at my slides, I know you're going to be like, I need to have the slides. At the end of me showing them to you, I'm going to give you the link for them, because there are things in it you're going to need to reference, so do not worry. Okay. No, we're not sharing, Kathy. We are slide showing. I've used PowerPoint for so long, I'm still new to using Google Slides. Okay, so let's do it. Now, we talked about this briefly last time. Did we? We looked at these 5 areas. Okay, so, and I showed you my box picture, yes? That's what I thought. It's hideously ugly. This is what's happened in the meantime since I've seen you guys. There's actually someone that's what they do, is like illustrations for businesses, and they're going to be drawing me a very pretty picture of this. It actually looks like something that a human would, you know, do. This is a use your imagination adventure. Okay, so remember the thing we were talking about, you figure out your courses. So again, for those of you that have already done this, like, are your courses working? There are going to be some things I'm going to mention. You might be like, ooh, we're not doing that. Then you might get some ideas. Okay, placement is next time. Then we figure out implementation. And then we will dive into the classroom once we get into the accelerator, which starts in April. And then I'm with you guys for through March 31st of next year. So you're going to get, like I said, professional development. You're going to have all kinds of resources. We're going to have great conversations. You know, there's a lot coming with that. We're just not talking much about the classroom yet. Instead, what we're trying to do is build a structure that allows for learning in the classroom and for teaching. That's what we're trying to do. Then we look at the whole thing. So again, those of you that are further along, you are in data and evaluation mode. You're now looking at this whole shoot match and figuring out what's working and what's not. Okay, and I would just keep a list, because that's our job to address. So my circle is wrong. We are doing courses and scheduling today. We'll be doing placement next time. Okay, so one more thing. Okay, so here are some assumptions that are no longer true. Okay, and the reason I'm mentioning this, even if you already have made the changes, would anybody say, please go in the chat and be honest with me, would anybody say, I made the changes, but begrudgingly? I don't actually think they're going to work. Okay, because some of you are very compliant, but it doesn't mean you wanted to do it. And I don't blame you, because I've been in your shoes. Okay, anybody, you'd be honest, be like, I am skeptical. No one's going to tell me the truth. Thank you, Dawn. Okay. It's okay. I hated co-recs for years, and I vehemently opposed them in my state. And every time they would say, we're going to do this, I would say, we are not Tennessee. Like, I was constantly saying that, because they were always like, well, Tennessee did it. And I'm like, we're not them. Okay. It's just different. Okay. So some things that we have learned. So this is where I want you to see, what have we learned from lots of people doing this, lots of research, and what works and what doesn't. Okay, so first thing, we used to think having lots of options, both in terms of the course, like chunking it, making like stretch versions and smaller versions and faster, slower, and hybrid, and all these other things. I mean, I get that we need to have different delivery methods, we do, but one thing that we found with having lots of course options it's confusing to students, it's confusing to advisors, And students don't usually end up choosing based on what's actually best for them. They choose what works on their schedule. So we're creating all this stuff and then they don't even get into what we really want them to have. And that's why you end up with people in online who have no business being in it. I've taught that way for a while. All right, so we've also had this idea since the 70s when my dad was teaching developmental math at the very beginning of all this, was that we want to have the Sputnik idea. We want everybody to learn lots of algebra, because if everybody learns lots of algebra, then they have lots of choices. We open the door very wide to possibility, and we're gonna get lots more engineers. That did not happen. Okay, and instead what we have is a lot of students getting caught in algebra, which in theory is supposed to open all these doors to courses, but they can't ever get to the algebra, so they never get to the courses. So that has not borne out. We also often believe that we have to have, and this is why we've all had it for decades, we replicate the high school sequence at our schools because we know that they don't know all those things. What we have since learned is there's different ways to get in these ideas. And I want to be clear on something. I do not think that co-recs are the second coming. I do not think they're the answer to all of our prayers. I think they serve certain needs, and there are other things that we have to do with them, and there's no one thing that works for everybody. I wish there were, there isn't. This is a biggie, okay? And this is because I think I definitely went on this assumption without even realizing it. I think we all had this in our mind that if a student passes a developmental class, so like if they go through our beginning algebra or intermediate, that means that they retain it, understand it, and can use it in the future class. I don't know about you, but that ain't true. Okay, a lot of them are just getting through enough to pass it. So they go through all the semester to do all this stuff, and then they can't even remember it when they come to us for the next class. Okay, now, so the question is, could we do some of that stuff when we see them? Yes and no. And we'll talk about that as we get further into this. The hardest thing to do is trying to serve those STEM bound students who don't have all their algebra. Okay, so, and it's funny because that's where I disagree with some of the policy people nationally, because they're all just like, all co-recs all the time. And I'm like, you clearly have not taught college algebra. So if you had, you would realize not everybody can take it. I wish they could, but I don't think they can and pass it. And then we did this for years. This was the Emporium model. I taught this way. My college thought it was going to be the answer to anything or everything. Do any of you, did you have an Emporium where they're self-paced on a computer doing like Alex or my math lab or something? If you did, throw it in the chat. I'm just curious. It's not that they can't do that, but if all we needed was computers, YouTube would have replaced all of us decades ago. Okay, and Khan Academy and the whole shooting match. Teachers are necessary, okay? And software is awesome, but it's just a tool. We used Emporium at Wayne State, yeah. I would say it didn't work out. Yeah, I would say that it works for certain students in certain situations. It does not work for all. All right, so let's get into the best practices. And again, this is based on what people have done, research, what works and what doesn't work. First thing, math pathways. So, and a lot of you are already doing this, which is great. If you're not, it's just the idea that not everybody has to take college algebra. It's that, you know, students that are headed, say, for an AA, that they're taking something like liberal arts math or statistics. Students that are headed towards an AS, they might need to take, maybe they're headed towards chemistry or nursing or something, they may need to take college algebra. But we differentiate math requirements based on the program or degree goals. Okay, co-requisite. Now, again, if you're often doing email, come back to me. I want to make sure that we are defining co-requisite the same way because not everybody does. And I want you to know what I mean by it. And this aligns to what the law says in your state. Okay, so co-requisite support is the idea of taking a college level course and joining it with some kind of additional help. So that could be lab hours, course hours, a separate course that they take at the same time. It's basically just, I don't want you to think co-requisite means a conjoined course. It means conjoined support. And how we deliver the support varies and what makes most sense on our campuses. And that is what we'll get into more in the next couple of meetings. How do you pick a co-rec that works for the resources your campus has? This is not developmental being offered with another class, and it is not developmental being offered at the same time as a college class. So it's not as simple as, because this is what I used to think. I'm like, okay, so if we do co-rec statistics, That means 3 credit hours of statistics, and then they take 3 credit hours of beginning algebra at the same time. That's not what it is. So co-rec is they take the statistics, and then you are going to give them extra time. And during that extra time, you're going to be giving them the support needed to be successful in statistics, which will include some ideas from beginning algebra, but it will also include other things like study skills and help with the existing content, all kinds of things. So that's one to just keep in mind because we don't all define it the same way. Okay, again, I don't think you can have this unless your school funds it, a standalone developmental. Can someone nod and tell me? I think that's the case. So some of you, because I know some of you are actually using my text, again, not that you have to, but I don't know that you can have math literacy. Am I correct in that? You can't have like a standalone math literacy course. Now, if there's something in there that you really like, and I don't care like what text you use or what materials, you might use some free materials or whatever. If there's a particular idea that you like in there, just keep the idea or the activity and you can use it in your co-requisite for non-STEM college level math. You don't have to give up, because that's the thing I always love about teaching math literacy. There's some fun stuff we do in there with students. You don't have to give all that up, but you're probably not gonna be able to do it in a standalone course. Because we can't charge students and the state's not going to pay for it. And your college is probably not going to either, although there could be exceptions.
Kathy,
Yeah.
if I might, just for a
Yeah,
second,
go
I'm sorry. See, my impression was that courses like, we have a beginning algebra course, we have a practical algebra course, which is actually a degree requirement for some occupational workforce type degrees, that we can still have those courses as long as they are college credit transferable, because that's always been the gray area in this discussion for years about what constitutes a college level course. And if you ask someone, at U of M 50 years ago, Calc 1, that's the only college level course. Everything else is, I don't know. And so, but if you had asked someone at a community college, it'd be, anything with a 3-digit course code is a college level course. So we haven't really had clear answers on that overall.
Okay, so one of the things I would have mentioned that we're going to be doing in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Once I'm going to have you guys, we're going to look at flow charts, common ways to actually do this. It just like kind of like a broad strategy. Then what we do is before we pick it, we have to measure it against all those special cases that you're talking about. So like other areas, other disciplines, technical areas, all these things. So we will talk more about that. And that's where not all of you will have the same same execution. And yeah, there will be some exceptions.
I'm just not sure that you can't have math literacy if, for example, it transfers to MSU as a college credit.
But I don't know if it
course.
would though. That's the issue, because I don't know if they would accept it, but who knows? So, and I will say this, I do not know everything about your law. I've read it and read it and read it. I've read through all kinds of information. If in doubt, and if you're sure, like, I don't know if what she said is right, please contact Jenny Shanker at the state and ask her, and she will answer your question. And don't be like, well, Kathy said, because Kathy's going off the best she can, but if there's something I have wrong and what the state's going to pay for, ask them, they know better, because they're the ones going to be dealing with that. Okay, boot camps. Who has a boot camp? Go ahead and put, or like a bridge program or something. Put it your college in the chat if you have something like this. Some kind of little short, intense experience to help students brush up on skills. Okay, if you don't, I want you to, hopefully it's not already passed, but your state is giving out money. If you apply for it, you will get it. You just have to go through the application part. Definitely. We're not going to talk a ton about this today. I will just say this, they are awesome and super useful, especially in your situation where you can't have tons of math courses. Okay, boot camps are your workaround without question. And I will share eventually like some best practices on how we can make those really work for you and for students. Okay, so the premise, if we put all this together, is we had this one way through forever, and many of you have already started Pathways years ago. But this is Pathways even more so. The idea of best practices, we split off STEM from non-STEM and have different college level math requirements, have the student be in the co-requisite if they need that, if the college level is too much. And if that's still too much, potentially have something before it. Now, whether it can be a standalone course, it doesn't sound like we know for sure if we can have that. So I would not count on that. What you can count on is you could use like a bridge program, not necessarily a course, but like a bridge or boot camp of some sort. High school transitional, I'm not sure if Michigan has it, it might, but a lot of states have this where it's a high school course that gets you college placement. Do you guys have anything like that? So it's basically they're taking developmental their senior year, not exactly, but that's the quick and dirty way of saying it. I don't know if anybody has that one. Okay, onward. Okay, ooh, so that's what transitional was. Okay, I tried it on a small scale. Yeah, I ran this for the state of Illinois for a couple of years and then was involved with this for 5 years actually total. And it's an adventure working with high schools and colleges. It can be done, but it's colleges, it's easier. I will say they have a lot of constraints in K-12 that make things challenging. All right, so let's get into, here's some truths. Okay, so this is again where we're coming back to evaluate what you're currently doing if you're further along. All right, so momentum is a huge, huge deal, and there's been research done on this. We are on the clock with students the first year we have them. They are constantly looking at everything that they're doing with us and thinking to themselves, is this worth my time and money? I could be working someplace. I could be doing something else. Is this really going to be worth it? Okay, that does not mean that we need to have candy and, you know, and fun and parties and all of that all the time. What it means is that we need to be thoughtful about our requirements and not just throw in things we're like, well, that would probably be helpful. It's like, unless it's essential, we need to not include it because that is where we lose students. We lose them very quickly off the first year. What we want students to get is a real win their first year. Not we give it to them and make them feel good, but they actually legitimately pass a course that's college level. If they do, that goes so far in keeping them. Okay. So one thing is think twice before adding another semester. That's why your law is not even allowing you to even do as much of that, because we know it's not always necessary, and it's really good at getting us to lose students that could have potentially been successful. Also, keep this in mind. When you are starting with college level courses, so if you're using co-requisite, students are more engaged than if they are in a developmental course. Now, I'm not saying they're all like, woohoo, math, but being in a class that gets them credit as opposed to one that doesn't totally impacts their level of commitment to the course. So we have that going for us. There will not be 10 of these, do not worry. Okay, so this again is where I differ a little bit from the national norm. Nationally, it's like co-recs are the answer for every single thing. Okay, and GPA is the answer for every single thing. Yes and no. For non-STEM, you can just basically, so if you take like stats or like liberal arts math, you can very much just say the student is either in the full course or they're in the co-rec. That's it. You can do that with every student, and believe it or not, even the ones that start at the pre-algebra level can be successful. Many, many, many colleges have seen that. That is not necessarily true for STEM. So we have to be more careful in how we do STEM. We can do co-recs, and I will show you options, but it's not just as simple as they're either in college algebra or they're in college algebra co-rec. There are students that that's still way too much for. Okay, this is a biggie. Just in time, a lot of times works better than just in case. And traditional dev ed is built on the just in case model. Give them everything just in case they ever need to see it. They end up getting too much stuff that they don't remember, and they can't even do the things that we need to when we get them in the upper courses. Also, make sure you don't get caught in the exceptions as you're doing this rule. It is very, very easy to get caught up into, but what about the student who comes in with this, and you end up with all of this list and it's one student. It's not that we don't care about them, we do, but make sure when you come up with your first initial plan that it is going to take care of the low-hanging fruit, which is what I mean is all those students who are sitting in like beginning and intermediate who could be in statistics co-rec. Those are ones like we need to make that change like yesterday, okay? Things like that, we want to make sure that we're dealing with them. So non-STEM is one that we can get a big impact right off the bat. You also can with STEM, but again, we have to be just more thoughtful about it. Okay, so this is example, especially this is for the math people, because I know we got lots of math people on here, and I want to give you this example, especially if you are really super skeptical about dropping all of our traditional dev ed. Okay, So I want you to think about pre-algebra, because forever I was like, yeah, we got students who need pre-algebra. And now I'm like, I really hope nobody offers pre-algebra as a standalone course. And here's why. It's not that pre-algebra skills aren't necessary. They're totally necessary. We do them all the time in all kinds of classes. However, when you do a standalone pre-algebra course, the idea of it is that we're going to do all these skills to a pretty high level of mastery, usually without a calculator, or maybe a lot of them without a calculator. It depends on your college's policies. Okay, but usually there's a couple of chapters where they don't get to use a calculator. Okay, however, that is not the case when they come into your college level class. Typically, we use technology, meaning if a student really needs to reduce a fraction, they can. Now, do not get me wrong. They need to be able to reduce fractions and all of that. I get that. But do they all need to take a full course and be able to prove it without a calculator? That's where I'm like, I don't know about that. Okay. So what we need is, think about those of you that teach statistics or liberal arts math. You need students who can apply arithmetic skills in context. So when they see like a fraction, interpreting a probability, or taking a decimal and going to a fraction or a percent and making sense of it in terms of a relative frequency or a probability. Okay, that's what we need them to do. The way to get there is to have a co-requisite where that's what you're focusing on, just the pre-algebra that they need. Brush up on that, but also work on it in context, because research shows if we teach in context, students are more likely to retain and understand. Okay, so those, I just want to give this something to think about, especially if you're really wed to pre-algebra. I'm not saying I'm going to change your mind with everything, but I want you to feel better mathematically. The skills matter. It's, do we need to have them as a standalone course? That's what I'm questioning, not that the skills matter. Okay, and if you're sitting there going, that's true, Kathy, but what about the student in college algebra who needs to be able to add rational expressions? I get you. Okay, so that's why we do different things for STEM and non-STEM. Okay, let's go look at the pretty pictures. All right, so first thing we're going to look at is, so I'm going to show you each of these, and then I'm going to give you a summary document that has all of them so you can compare them, and then we're going to go to breakouts and you're going to pick. You're going to start talking to each other. What ones do you like? Now, this is big, what we're talking about. You may not get all of this decided today in the next 45 minutes. That's okay. All right, there's a reason we don't meet for 2 weeks. Some of you are going to be like, we got to have more conversations. Like, this is not going to be enough, and that's okay. All right, for many of you, this is probably what you'll go with, because it's going to be in compliance with the law, and mathematically it works pretty nice. Okay, it's basically, you're in STEM or non-STEM, you either take the course or you're in the co-requisite version of it. And for the college algebra, we're getting the intermediate algebra with the college algebra. And I'm not saying they take an intermediate at the same time as college algebra. As we get further along, we'll talk about how you can actually blend that content and make it work. And some of you have already done this. You can share how you're making it work. It's the hardest co-requisite to do, but I want to give you the tips that I see from the schools that are making it work, how they're doing it. So one quick one. A lot of these schools with college algebra co-recs will do an intense, short review at the beginning of the semester on things that they need to be able to do the entire semester. So graphing lines, solving basic linear equations, factoring, the things that they have to be able to do. But they don't do everything. Because if they did everything, we just feel like you're taking intermediate algebra for the first 4 to 6 weeks. They don't do that. They take about a week or two and do review. Then the rest of the semester, they do just in time with topics as they come up. For a lot of students, we can do that because there's a huge overlap in intermediate and college algebra. But for those that it's still too much, they go into the boot camp first. So they come in having done a little bit more of a brush up with some individualization that helps them. That's the concept of it. Okay, next one. And I'm going to give you time to like talk and ask questions and all of that when you guys go into breakouts. Oh, before we go into breakouts, I think the thing we learned was, I think now I've got the setting figured out. You can choose your own breakout. And I think the issue was people were having trouble were on iPads and phones. It seems like this is less of an issue. No, it wasn't necessarily. Oh my God. Okay, then Heather and Aaron, you're gonna have to educate us when we go the next time, because it's really frustrating me when you guys, because I'm like, because then I just look like a dip. And it's like, no, I thought about this, but God bless technology. Okay, this is a really interesting model, and there are colleges that are doing it, and it is successful, and it doesn't appear that it should be. So let me address something. What is happening with this one is if a student, so basically a student comes to you, and if they need a college level math credit, if they qualify for college algebra, they can take it. If they don't qualify for it, they're not going to start with a co-rec. They're going to start with a non-STEM college level math class, like statistics or liberal arts math. And if they need the co-rec for that, they could take it as well. Notice there's an option. You can throw in a boot camp whenever you want, however you want to use that. So that's another variable that we can throw in. But here's what they do. The students that pass the non-STEM college level math with or without co-rec can then go into the college algebra co-rec. And schools are absolutely seeing success with this. And you might be like, how? Our non-STEM course is not an algebra class. How is that working? Because here's what we found. So again, this is where the assumptions and the reality differ. Because immediately it's like, but you're not doing tons of algebra. How does that work? Thank you, Ken. You build the confidence. That is a lot of this, what it comes down to. We wake up math knowledge. We get them confident with, they can pass a college level course. They can do this. If they believe they can do this, that's half the battle. And we all know that. And then they know how to do college level work, like what the time is involved. Then they can be successful when they go into the co-rec or the college algebra. I think it's kind of a nifty one. And when I see schools do it, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just curious, does anybody find this one interesting at all? And if you're like, definitely not. Erin, we got one. Okay, you don't have to, but I've just, when I saw some schools doing this, I was like, that's kind of different. But it was really cool to see they actually had success with it. All right. Yes. We did this at the beginning of Pathways. Intriguing. All right. And that's the whole point of this. As we get further into it too, always we want to be sharing, you know, when you're like, okay, we tried something like this. This is what worked or this is what didn't. And what did we learn? And I think the biggest thing that we're learning from this is it's not always what's happening in the class in terms of the content. It's the experience and these non-cognitive things, their confidence, their commitment, their ability to weather challenges. That's what makes or breaks students being successful. It's not always the math skills. Okay, if you're allowed to, this is one option. I see schools, I don't know. I mean, I've got several in Illinois that are doing this. Some use beginning algebra, some use math literacy, and they just have a one catch-all developmental option. Another version of this is a one developmental option per pathway. So they're doing beginning algebra for college algebra, they're doing math literacy for non-STEM. I think, again, it's unless your college can find a way to pay for it without charging students. And this is only required for math, like, because, you know, we had Mike saying, you know, like maybe if it's required for something else, it could be allowed. And that would be something I would actually, there's a homework for you. If you really want to have something like this, I would go start investigating with your administration, and possibly if you need to email Jenny Shanker and ask her, well, what if we keep like beginning algebra for these programs and that's all it's for? And we use it, you know, can we have that? Is that even allowed? It's worth finding out. Okay, this document, this is what I'm going to give you, the slides, has all of them all in one place. So you can just look through them. When I give this to you, what I want you to do is pick the one you think you're going to go with, just click it, I mean, just right click it and copy it and put it into your schedule so that you just have a record of it. You don't have to keep going back to this all the time. So let's share the slides. Okay, so there are the slides. I believe that was everything. Appears as such. All right. Oh, I'm terrified, but we're going to go back into breakouts. We're going to see how that becomes. Okay, so the next phase that we're going to do, let's pull up your schedule. Okay, so go to page 3. So the first thing you're going to do, so in this next section, what I want you to do is have a conversation with your team. And again, you're either evaluating or choosing, depending on where you're at with things. Figure out which of those flow charts you think you'd like to go with. Copy it and put it in your schedule, just so that you know what you guys were considering, even if you change your mind later. Oh, I did not have a chance to go deep into this, but if anybody's like, I want to see the research that you keep talking about, I keep a huge document that I add to all the time. And I want you to know it's in here. I've got a link to it. If there's anything you ever want me to add to it, like if you see a piece of literature and it's like, it's not in here, just let me know. But I've got it categorized by key topics, equity gaps, co-recs, multiple measures, all different kinds of things. If you are a skeptic of co-rec, which is valid, I highly suggest you go to page 2 and read these 2 studies. They were the ones that changed my mind without question, because I was like, oh crap, that actually may work. What it is it's a randomized controlled trial study. 900 students who started at the beginning algebra level were randomly placed into 3 groups: beginning algebra with support, and elementary stats with support. And then they watched them all semester and they try to control for all different kinds of variables. It is a rigorous study. And the group without question, the highest success rates was the stats, which I think we know. I mean, stats in some ways, we have students that can get through it that can't get through algebra. The thing I want you to understand that I think is important is that there were students who could get through stats being at the beginning algebra level, which I think is amazing. And if you're like, okay, but that's a fluke, what did that mean going forward? They did a follow-up study 3 years later where they looked at degree attainment, credit attainment, earnings, everything. What did this mean for these students as they went forward in their lives? It was good. Okay. So again, I'm not saying it's the answer to everything, but if you're worried you're doing harm, I think this might ease your concerns, because it doesn't, or doesn't have to. Okay, so that's just something, if you want to read research, I've got all kinds of stuff in there. So what you're going to do with your group is you are going to pick your flow chart strategy. If you have time, you're going to go through and do this. If you don't, you're going to do this as homework. What you have to do is evaluate your flow chart. Who is it working for? Because all of these initially are going to work for STEM and non-STEM, but there's a whole bunch of other people that take math on your campus. So you have to think, okay, so what are we doing for the technical math students? Will this do this, or are we going to have like an additional course in their discipline? Is the technical area going to have a co-requisite? Can they use our boot camp? There's ways to do this. Okay, there's a lot of ways to do it, but these are, you need to be looking through these. And if you're stuck on any of it, we can talk through it. But I want you to be thinking from all these different perspectives. What are they going to do when they go through this? Okay. And this is why I asked you to come up with a list of all the other disciplines on your campus that have a math requirement, because you're going to need to be able to let them know. You don't have to write this down now. I'll remind you later. You're going to be able to let them know this is what we're going to, and here are our suggestions on how to address the current requirement you have. We're not going to just say, figure it out. Thank you, dog. She's out. Okay, so let's go till 4:45 for you guys, because I want to see how far you get and what you come up with. And then we'll just talk, and probably after that, we'll just go ahead and disperse, and we'll talk about homework and how you can get more help on this. But I'm going to open the breakout rooms. Let's see what happens. I'm probably going to regret it. Hello, hello. Okay, so I brought you back just a little bit early. I had the most interesting conversation with Darby, Scott Barnett, and Sam Bazzi. We were talking about some different things that I think would be super beneficial to the rest of you. As something to think about. And I don't know if I don't think it's going to work for everybody, but it's something to consider. So Henry Ford College has intermediate algebra counting as, it's numbered with a 1, it's a 100 level course, and it counts as college credit. So they checked, it sounds like you guys checked with Jenny Shanker. It sounds like they can use intermediate algebra. They do not have to get rid of it for their college credit. However, they're using it for students who are in STEM-bound classes. So the student is going to take college algebra. They will follow up with college algebra, but they're getting college credit for intermediate. I was not sure that you could do that. I'm so glad I found out we can. So not that I want to like throw a wrench in what everybody's doing, but it sounds like that's possibly an option. Intermediate algebra is a weird little dude, especially how it's used all throughout the country. So I was not aware of that. That's something to consider. Also, we are going to look more at credit hours and content and all of that stuff the further we go. Right now, we're just looking at kind of the bigger structures. We will get in all the weeds. Mark.
Hi there. Thanks, Kathy. So that intermediate class, does that count then for MTA?
No.
Okay,
So then they would
Scott
need to
and
take
Sam-
another class on
Yes.
top
Yes.
of that.
No.
They get their college credit from us, but then they'd have to take another class for MTA on top of it.
Yes, but that does meet the statutory requirement of college or of the what's the word I'm looking for? Gateway course by the
Yeah.
second semester. And that's how we have justified our Math 105, or I'm sorry, our beginning algebra. It's the same model, except we kept beginning algebra and got rid of intermediate.
Okay,
And some folks have tried to repackage their beginning algebra as correct for intermediate, and then have that as the first step for the STEM pathway. Because all of us who know anything at all about teaching math, I'm a chemist, so I only know a little bit, but I know enough. It sounded ludicrous that you could place a student with widely ranging proficiency levels from no arithmetic to this close to college algebra into college algebra with support.
Right.
And one size fits all. So just different colleges went about it in different ways, partly because of how their programs have been built.
okay.
And other programs requiring intermediate algebra as their course, their math course for the occupational side of the house.
So I will tell you guys something right off the bat, because I have several schools that are still allowed to do this in other states, consider it. Now, if it has a 0 number at your school or is currently not counted as college credit, you may have to go through your curriculum committee and resubmit it to the state or whatever the processes are. But that is a nice way. I'm not gonna say it's the only way, and I still want you to have thoughtfulness to it, because again, I want you to think back to what we were talking about with momentum and how do we keep students. There are still things that we have them do that are absolutely unnecessary. And when Scott told me, yeah, but we're having them take intermediate, but then they're going into college algebra, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Those students need it. I wouldn't want you having them take intermediate as their college credit if they were going for an AA. Put them in something like liberal arts, math, or stats. First off, they'll have a better chance of passing it, and the content's more useful to their lives. So I still want you to think about that, but I'm not trying to get you to like invent a bunch of new stuff. But that is a cool way to potentially, kill several birds. Don't have bird violence. Okay, so hang on. Seems very odd for students to be allowed to take. Exactly, it is a lot. It's never made full sense that we give all this time in high school, then they come to college and we do it twice as fast and all of it. And obviously students are not successful with it and they're not motivated by it. So some more thought. You guys, that's why each of you will have you'll need some time to think about that, which is why I'm going to mention before we leave here today what I want you to consider for next week. Okay, so one thing I want you to see is, can everybody see this flow chart that's from Jackson? Okay, this is the perfect case. And I don't think we have anybody here from Jackson, do we? I mean, I don't think they were one of the schools, which I know some people there, but this is the perfect case. So if you're like them, be like, hey, we've already done this work, Kathy, what are we doing? I'll tell you right off the bat, when I'm looking at theirs, I'm like, there's things that can be tweaked. They're gonna have problems. If they don't have problems, they may already have them right now, but if they don't, they will. But maybe they're already doing this right now. And here's right off the bat, I don't know if anybody can guess what it is. These are too many credit hours. Okay, when you have that many credit hours, you're basically saying to a student, your schedule is math. They're going to be able to take very little else. And if they don't pass it, a lot of it's going to affect their financial aid, because boom, all of a sudden they're out 6, 7, 8 hours. You also don't need that much to be successful. Okay, so if this was your model or you have anything like this, this is what I will tell you. For quantitative reasoning, you can get away with 1 additional hour a week. I kid you not. 2 is fantastic. 3 is not necessary. If you want to have it, you can, but you don't need to have them sign up for 6 hours a week if they're doing quantitative reasoning. Stats is usually harder. 2 to 3 credit hour, or 2 to 3 hours additional is useful. 1 additional hour is usually not enough because stats is harder. If you're doing algebra, don't do this. Okay, I know this is the easiest way. Just be like, hey, we're just going to make our beginning algebra into our co-rec, and intermediate will be the college level. Don't do that. Here's why. It's too many credit hours. It's way too many credit hours. There's a ton of overlap. It's too much. And it's students, again, they're not necessarily going to be successful, and they don't need all of that. But what I would do is better align this stuff, tighten it up, reduce the hours. And that's something we're going to talk about in further meetings. There's a difference between how many hours I need to have with them a week and how many credit hours they're paying for. Those are not the same things. You might have 5 hours that you're with them, but they're only paying for 4. There's all kinds of ways to do this. It's totally kosher. But if this is you, that's the kind of things that I would say there is work to be done here, not a crazy amount, but there's ways to make this work better. Okay, so just had to, if you have something like that, that's awesome. We have an example we can go off of. Okay, so I do not want to keep you guys forever. We have done a ton today, and I know, breakout room hell with me, which hopefully we will not have that going forward, but that slowed us down a little bit. I am curious, go to the chat. Did any college pick an option? Does anybody feel like we think we know where we're going? I mean, I only gave you 10 minutes to make a huge major change that affects your whole campus. So I'm sure that was plenty of time. Does anyone think that they have one of their
So at Kellogg, we have moved forward prior to this with implementing co-recs pretty well at scale. And the only thing we're changing for this upcoming year is stepping away from the standalone, below 100 level developmental course, which actually had a co-rec as well with it.
Okay.
But we have kind of a what I've entitled as a modified option 4, because for your option 4, you have beginning algebra leading to college algebra with or without co-rec, and then a math literacy leading to non-STEM. We don't have a math literacy.
Okay, yeah, so you have the basically, the
non-STEM. So we have kind of a mix between option 1 and option 4, basically.
Right, and that's okay. Yeah, these are just big ideas. Right, how you guys are going to put them into place is going to be different. Okay, so one thing before we hop off here, this is a lot. This is big, and you probably need more time, and I'm fully aware of that. So let's talk about when we see each other next and what you can be doing in the meantime. So let's talk about homework first off. Ideally, when I see you next, which is, and I'll put it on the screen as well, but we have an office hour next Thursday. We have our next work session 2 weeks from today on the 17th. Before I see you then, I would love if you have a new flow chart that shows what your plan is that you're thinking. Now, we're not submitting this yet to curriculum committee or anything. It's just like, what do you think we could do? All right, it can still be edited and changed and everything. Draw it in any software you like. I've just found Google Drawing to be the fastest, but do it however you like, especially if you have, some people are very good at flow charts and have other software, so you rock on, okay? But I would say the main thing is, because, before, when we leave here is, when are you guys going to meet again? Because you probably need to have more conversation. So, and of course, communicate out to people. We're working on the flow chart. We're making these tweaks. We're talking about these kinds of things, or whatever you guys are doing. Ideally, before I see you next time, you've chosen the strategy. You have gone through and thought about how are we going to be meeting needs for a variety of different students. And you start thinking about some basics that have to do with implementation that we will get to in meeting 4. This next meeting is placement. Please tell your friends, come. I want that to be as beneficial as possible to everybody. Anything here you're not sure about, ask or wait. So here's what I would consider for you to do. So office hour is February 9th, 3 to 4 p.m. And meeting is February 17th, 2 to 4 p.m. Okay, what I would highly suggest you do is, as a team, decide when you're going to talk again in the next 2 weeks. If you want to, just come as a team to office hours with me, and we'll work through anything you want, or meet on your own and work through it and email if you have questions. but feel free to come to office hours next time as a team and just say, okay, this is what we've got so far and we're stuck. We need some ideas. Okay. Let's see. Oh, who in here right now already has implemented guided self-placement? Put it in the chat if you've already done it. So I know Delta is one. I'm going to reach out to Jim Ham and see if he's willing to come to our next meeting. Muskegon has, Bay has, awesome. Because we want y'all to tell us the real truth with it, what's working and what's not, so that we can put our heads together and try to make it work better for you, but also for anybody else that's considering it. Okay, so we've got Bay, Muskegon, and Delta. Montcalm as of today. Let's see, and okay, so Kellogg, you're thinking about it, but you just haven't put it into place yet, which is great because then we can just hear like, what have you guys come up with? Henry Ford, yes, this is gonna be great. So I would say if you're in the boat where you're already on your way with guided self-placement, if you have some kind of like summary document or anything that you'd be able to share with people next time, that would be super helpful. We would love to see how are you doing it. Anything that you have students look at, any documents you can bring, that would be helpful. So we will have an email that goes out early next week telling everybody the recording's available and all of this stuff. And I'll remind people that please bring, however, your process, please bring a document with that next time. Okay, so what questions do you have before we get out of here? And do you want me to open up breakout rooms so you can talk with your team real quick just to figure out when you're meeting next? Does anybody want that? No? Okay, you can, oh, yes, please do. All right. So
I do have a quick question
yes.
before we go though.
Okay.
Plus courses. What
Yes.
do you mean by that?
Okay, so some colleges, what they do is like, say Math 120 is college algebra and it's 3 credits. They offer like a Math 120P plus that's like 4 credits or 5 credits.
Got
And
it.
so they're not commingled and they don't have, I'll tell you why colleges do that. So they do not have to try to pair courses in Banner and Colleague.
Yes, we're having trouble with pairing. So we have like loosely paired courses because in our implementation, we didn't have enough students to pair each course with one co-rec.
Yeah.
So it's even worse than just an ALP model.
Yeah. And that's why we will be getting into logistics before we know it. Right now, we're figuring out how we want to do it. Then we will actually figure out how to do it. All right, I would open up breakout rooms. I'll leave them open for at least 10 more minutes. You guys, if you need to go and figure out when you're going to work together, please do. Otherwise, email each other. But please come to office hours if you need help. Come to the next meeting if you can. All right, so breakout rooms.